Welcome to another edition of the Ratitude Podcast. I'm pretty excited today. I've got one of my best friends, Pete Dolan, here with us from San Diego. Pete is a long-time sort of acquaintance, and then in recent years, we've become really good friends. We used to be rivals. It started in the corporate track world when I was running for Exxon and he was running for Hughes Aircraft. We raced against each other. He has some memories of a race that I don't really have memories of, but we later connected when I was coaching at Thousand Oaks High School and he was at UCSB. Then we had this very significant event where I wanted to move from the high school level to the college level, and I went up and had an interview with Pete to talk about potentially becoming one of his assistant coaches. And we ended up speaking for about 8 hours about stuff besides track. It was just an amazing conversation. I don't know if I've met anyone quite like Pete. He's a unique individual. He's got a unique background. He's one of the most kind and compassionate and real people I know. And it's an honor to welcome Pete Dolan to the Ratitude Podcast. Thanks for being here, Pete.
Thanks, Robert. That's a heck of an introduction. Remembering the old times we did have. Those were interesting talks we had for sure.
And we continue to have interesting talks. In fact, you're going to be here next week here in Florida, and we're going to spend 5 days together. And I'm sure we're going to talk about all sorts of crazy things, especially with where you're headed and where I'm headed on our spiritual journey. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You got some good weather in your forecast too. It's a little foggy here.
It's really nice in Florida in the springtime. But Pete, I want to start first with, you have such a unique upbringing. And I want you to kind of share with our audience, because I think it sets the tone for some of the things that we're going to talk about a little bit ago. So tell me about kind of your early influences, your childhood influences, particularly around spirituality and religion, and just kind of how your mind formed.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start our spiritual common ground we have, because we're both on this spiritual path. So the earliest memories I had was having to go to church, right? The Catholic church was a mile away from our house, and my sisters and I would walk, and I can remember being kind of scared of the Father Howley. He would fire and brimstone kind of guy, and I started thinking about what life meant. And then unfortunate incident, my dad passed when I was 11. So my mom was a Christian Scientist. My dad was a Catholic. So my mom kind of took over the spiritual side of it. And so we started going to a Christian Science church. And I think, as most people wonder, like, where the hell did my dad go? And so that really drove me. I wanted to find out, where did he go and why was he here and what am I doing here? And so that really started a long process. Fortunately, Christian Science has this thing called Sunday school, and I actually like going. So junior high, I had a great teacher for my junior high, and then in high school I had Mrs. Macbeth, and she was she knew how to talk to high school kids, and so I really I got a lot. I think that was really helpful, the Christian Science introduction back then.
I didn't really know anything about Christian Science until I met you and another kind of mutual friend of ours. But could you tell us a little bit about what Christian Science is all about?
Like most religions, it's on the downward slide. It's not as popular anymore. So Mary Baker Eddy was the founder, but the real gist of it, and this is what the public always thought, was, oh, you're a Christian Scientist, you don't believe in doctors, which was not true. So the real issue came out with some Christian Scientists, would learn how to kind of follow the method, and then would put their child's hand in kind of God's hands without really knowing what they were doing. So it was high publicity. Some parents, the kid had like just some regular, I don't know what it was, maybe the measles or something, and then he dies. And so the parents, got held liable for it. And if they would have taken to the doctor, it would have been okay, which is, it's understandable to want God to heal your child. But if you're not ready for it, to me, I always, when people ask me about it, I'd say, hey, it's like, you just learn to do long division and then you're supposed to do calculus. So these parents weren't ready for it. And so that gave Christian Science a really bad name. But the really And I have to say, beautiful thing about Christian Science is you're supposed to go to, Jesus, the teachings of Jesus and Mary Baker Eddy's version of those teachings to find wisdom and to find strength. And what's wrong with that? So I gravitated towards that. Now, if you got a broken leg, I would say get it set. But if you had a cold, or a, minor something, then hey, go to God for, how do I heal myself? So that's kind of, I don't know if did I answer your question, Robert?
Forget the medical side, what parents do about going to doctors or not. What is Christian Science all about? You said that you believe in Jesus. I didn't know that. You believe in a God. I didn't know it. I think that there's some philosophies or principles that, what's the science part of Christian Science? Tell us a little bit about your understanding of that.
Okay, the one thing I have memorized, the scientific statement of being. There is no life, truth, intelligence, or substance in matter. All is infinite mind and its infinite manifestation. Now, that's a powerful statement. So, when Robert, we go to the stuff we're talking about now, like if it's all infinite manifestation, if it's all coming from the quantum field, then what is this matter? And, people, as I was listening to the Deepak Chopra the other day, he's saying the closest, the best definition we have for matter right now is matter is basically nothing. That's coming from Deepak. So bridging the gap, I'm jumping around here a little bit, but bridging the gap. So if Christian Science really was talking about this, and, Deepak's pretty popular. So do you see the commonality there, or am I still way out there?
You made a statement that you memorized. What does that mean to you, or what does that mean to our audience that has no clue of what you're even saying?
It's so hard because, I grew up with that, right? So it's in my head. So when I say there's no life, truth, or substance in matter, that if you're looking for the answers in matter, which, what I was trying to tie it together is there's really not much there. You really need to look towards is God, or infinite manifestation, or quantum field, or the spirit, or whatever you want to call it. Look towards that, because matter is not the answer. So I don't know if that helps at all, but that's where my mind, that's where I'm at.
When you talk about matter, and I think about like an atom, and from elementary school science class, we saw that there was a nucleus, and had protons and neutrons in there. Then there's these electrons flying around, but that 99+% of it was just space. It was just emptiness. And now I think that there's some new science that says that that's not what an atom really looks like. If you look at it, it does, but when you're not looking at it, it looks different, which is kind of weird to me anyway. But is that what you're talking about when you say matter is nothing, just the empty space, or is it something else?
Good question, Robert. As we end most of our talks with, I don't really know for sure. So, which is good. I want to lean into that I existed before I have a soul, and that my spirit is the most important thing. And with that, I don't think atoms, this is once again, I don't think atoms have anything to do with my soul and my spirit. So when we're really looking for the thing that's going to last, my true identity would matter, doesn't matter.
It's interesting that you brought up the soul, because I've just spent 3 of the last 4 days at this Seraphim blueprint retreat workshop, where I learned some just amazing things. But one of them was, we talked quite a bit about the soul, and that we're really here on a soul's journey, not just our life journey. Our life journey is our life journey, but we're here on a soul journey, which is so very different than your life journey. Have you thought about that, kind of the differences between your life journey and your soul journey? And do you know what either one is for you?
Yeah, I'm a big Neil Donald Walsh fan. So Conversations with God. And I didn't really think about how many past lives I may have had and what I needed to do in those past lives. Is that really what you're getting at?
Maybe.
I think he said he had 660 something past lives, and so he has a mission for each of those. So the best I have in my mind of what I'm doing is is we're in a pre-existence. We want to demonstrate all these great things that God is, love, closeness, unity. And so to do that, you have to get into, what we're in now, this world we're in, this life I have. So doing that, you get into trouble and all these things, but you realize what love really is and what closeness really is and truth and all these things.
You said you realize what love is. Did you figure out what love is?
Well, I shouldn't speak so strongly, but you got me. I'm getting a hint of what love is. Yeah. So yeah. So you get glimpses of it.
Uh-huh.
Right? When you see a beautiful sunset or you're with a beautiful woman and you feel that thing, or the birth of your children, or in my case my son, you get a glimpse of it. But if it's just a concept, which is I think in pre-existence, since we're talking about what my life's purpose is, if it's just, then we don't really get to demonstrate it.
So you use the word pre-existence. Pre-existence to what?
Well, pre-existence to being here before I was born. Simple as that. Before I was born, where was I? What was I doing before I was born? I don't know for sure, but to have some kind of framework, I think, maybe I was. We've talked about some of this stuff before. Jumping ahead is what's so important now is can I be a good person here? And then of course that opens up what's a good person, but can I understand more things here and demonstrate, goodness for just a big general word.
So I thought what I heard you say was that we're currently in pre-existence for something in the future. Is that how you believe?
Well, then you bring it in does time exist? Is time just one moment? So that's once you start undoing this, when all the talks you have, where do you start and where do you end? I don't know. But I think the pre-existence, I think for me, for practical purposes, that was before, and now I exist in this life.
Okay.
And it's
okay.
It kind of going back to, I want to demonstrate things that I knew in the pre-existence, like I knew what love is, keep it simple, I knew what good versus evil was. Evil is like the non-existent of, that you ignore, the truth or something. So now I come down here, let's say come down to existence, then can I demonstrate, goodness in the face of evil? Can I, not steal and just, build my life without stealing, without lying, without, these things that seem really simple, but when you get down to it day to day, it's you get challenged every day.
Yeah. You and I have attended a couple of Dr. Joe Dispenza workshops together. How did that hit you? What did you learn there that was new, that maybe challenged your beliefs or added on to your beliefs or helped you evolve to where you are today?
It was so powerful. What he does during those retreats, he is so prepared, and the message is just clear. Be good, love everybody. We're all together in this thing. And so the most I got out of both of them that I went to was the feeling that we're just searching, fellow truth searchers. Just we're all together and we're just feeling it at the same time. And it was so powerful that nothing has really come close to the feeling that I got of unity. I think I've told you this one before. Sometimes when I'm meditating, I go right back to the giant, whatever hall in Cancun, and I can just feel everybody there. Now that's just, you can't read that. Anything I've done in my life, you can't feel all those people on the same page as you, unless you go to one of those retreats. And there may be other retreats like that. And I've felt together, with groups of people before in my life, but this was on another level. And I really think I changed because of that.
Yeah. It's interesting because they've made measurements about the energy in those workshops, particularly related to some of the healings that we've been doing. with people. For those that haven't been to a Dr. Joe Dispenza workshop, in a group of, say, 2,000 people, about 100 people are selected to be what he calls Heelys. And 2 or 3 times during the week, the Heelys will come into the room and they'll lay down, and then 7, 8, 9 people surround them, and we put our hands above them and we pour energy into them. And the feeling that Pete's talking about, that unity, that energy, some people could really feel it. Pete says he can really feel it. I've never felt it. I wish I could feel it. I love the camaraderie there, but that energetic feeling I haven't been able to feel yet, and it's something that I strive for and want to be able to do. So it's interesting that you bring that up, that you can feel that, and that you're able to, in today's world, in the now, come back to that and feel that same kind of energy.
But Robert, I feel the same as you. We've talked about this. It's not the big zap. Some of those people, you've seen them. The Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, has taken them. And for me, it's just I don't like an extension. That like these, lack of a better word, brothers and sisters were all there, and just feel it. So there's a calming presence. It's something like when you see the beautiful sunset, or maybe if you've seen the Grand Canyon, or beautiful waves at a beach, it's that kind of feeling, like you're witnessing something special, and there's a feeling there, but it's not like you're watching your favorite team win the Super Bowl. It's not that one, but there's something there that you recognize it, and I seem to have taken that with me from both the Joe Dispenza's retreats.
Yeah. One of the things that impressed me early on when we met was that you're just an avid reader. You read a lot of books. You tend to read them fairly slowly and meticulously, and you really get the learnings out of them. What are some of the influential reads that you've had that have shaped who you are and how you think now?
The first book that really got me going, obviously the Bible. Jesus' teachings, I challenge people is there any better teachings than that? There's a lot of great teachings out there, but it was so simple when I was young. So I got to remember, certain things. Just what a nice guy he was. That's why I like, wow, how he's up against it, and he still just is doing his best out there. So that stuck with me. And then Mary Baker Eddy and his Christian Science and Health, and her interpretation of it, which was really important to me, because the Bible back then was so mysterious, especially the Old Testament. So when reading the Christian Science, and as a dedicated Christian scientist, you're supposed to read this lesson where you read certain Bible verses and then the correlative passages from Christian Science and Health. And so you took that with you every day into your week, and you would be walking through life and you remember something about that. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but just the basic goodness of the Jesus stories. That's what resonated the most with me. And then as I guess midlife, I was in Boulder, Colorado, and I went into a bookstore and I saw Conversations with God up on the top 10 list. And I was going, okay, what's this about? That says kind of hokey. So I asked the guy at the register, I said, hey, what's up with this book? Like, is this for real? He's like, oh yeah, a few of my, guys that I work with read it and they say it's the real deal. I'm like, all right, let's get this book. So I get it, and we walk up one of those trails. Boulder better than I do, but one of those trails that everybody walks up, and I got it with me, and we stop and we have a snack, and I start reading like 20 pages, and I get to 30 pages, and I'm like, this is real. Like, I feel it right now. And I don't want to say it changed my life, because, one book, but it really did set me back. And I've read that book. It's my favorite one. I probably read it at least once a year. So I've probably read it 20 times, but it's just,
wow.
I know every time I read it, though, it's an easy read too. Every time I read it, I'm kind of like, is this real? Like, but at the same time, it's just, it just right at you, at least it touched me. So that's gotta be, if somebody asks me my favorite book, if they're ready to listen, that's it's a great one.
So for those that haven't read Conversations with God, what's kind of the theme, or what's the message, or what did you get out of it to share with our audience?
So Neil had some tough spots in his life, and this was one of them. He was broke, and he goes, "That's it. I think he says it, and I'm pissed. Like I'm not happy with God. I'm going to write him right now." I think we've all done that at some point in or most people have done that at some point in their life. They're like, "Man, I don't get it. Like this does not make sense." Everybody's kind of got a bad story or something's up, and you just want help. So that was kind of the biggest one. He just starts writing. He goes, "You know what? Why did you forsake me? I've tried really hard, and help me out." And then, bam, he gets an answer in his head. Now, that's where the reader has to go, did he really get the answer? Was it already there? What's going on? Or is God really talking through his pencil? So to me, it doesn't really matter, if it really is talking to it, but the stuff that comes out, about how to live your life and how anything's possible. That's one of my, big things in life. Anything is possible. Don't ever make that untrue. Don't ever make that impossible. It can't, anything's possible. And I know, Robert, we talked about this a lot, but it's true. Like when you were coaching, you knew, your team was going to be the best. So that's kind of in that book. It's like, hey, anything's possible. And then Neil, came up to a lot of synchronicities in his life, and he got a great job, and then it just kept building. And then, these books, he was supposed to just do 3 of them, and then it turned into 7 of them. And he helps a lot of people. And so.
Have you written to God?
Yeah, but I wasn't, that's a good question, Robert. I don't think you ever asked me that one. I have, yeah, kind of in journals. I go off and on with journaling. It's.
Have you gotten any answers?
I'm going to say I haven't got one off the top of my head, but it's also like from writing. But yeah, sure, I've gotten answers. Yeah.
The reason I'm kind of interested in this right now is because after this podcast, I'm meeting with a friend of mine, Claudette Anderson, and she teaches something called the truth method. And she has a process to talk to God as truth. And it's interesting because, I think it's still challenging for me to figure out, am I talking to God or am I talking to my ego? And that discernment is really important to figure out. And Claudette believes that she can help people to do that. So it's interesting that you bring up that book. I didn't realize you'd read it 20 times. I've read it once. I don't remember it, so I guess it wasn't that memorable for me. But I think we do get answers from God in different ways. It could be audible, it could be a feeling, it could be whatever. But then to distinguish it from the ego, yeah, I'm not there. I know that some people are, and you and I are striving to be that way, I guess.
Well, I think, Robert, the way you've set up your life, and hopefully mine too, is we're just listening most of the time. Like what you're doing now with this podcast, which, I didn't even know you had this many episodes, but, you're listening to people because everybody's got, a message, either what to do or what not to do. And so, I think that's part of I'm pretty sure that's in Conversations with God, unless I'm confusing it with something else. But God's always talking to you. All you got to do is listen. It's always there.
More recently, it seems like you've got like 2 or 3 books you're reading all at once. And I know that there's one that you told me about yesterday that you're reading. And then lo and behold, I'm reading a book yesterday, and in it, the author mentions that book. And I go, Pete just told me about it. It's in this book. I'm going to have to get it. It's going to be on my doorstep here in the next hour from Amazon. You want to tell a little bit about that book?
Well, the autobiography of a yogi, Paramahansa, I'm saying that wrong, Yogananda, back in the early 1900s. And it's around almost all the teachers these days. That's one of their favorite books. Michael Singer, that was his watershed book. And then I'm going to butcher his name, Rizwan Virk. I think is his name. He founded a video game company. Obviously a really intellectually smart guy. He was asked to do a version of that book in kind of modern day. He's kind of at the forefront of AI also. So it's like a modern version of this thing. So he's been through a lot too, I could tell reading his story. I got all excited. I read another 50 pages last night, and I'm taking notes and to make sure I don't miss anything this time. And I've only read it. This will be my second time. Oh, in my intention group, one of the intention group, that's her favorite book too, and I think she's going to reread it. I should get them to do a book club with me on that book.
Okay, so you just mentioned something, an intention group. Would you tell our audience about what that is, what you guys do, how's it going, the influence on the world in your intention group?
A friend of mine who I met at the first Joe Dispenza in Cancun, she was joining Lynn McTaggart's Power of 8 intention group. And I said, hey, what's this all about? So she filled me in. And because I respect her, she's on a big search also. I said, I'm doing it. I looked it up. I got in, and they set you up. So the intention is, now kind of going back to Christian Science, if I can. So it's putting it out there with a group of people that we really believe thoughts are powerful, words are powerful, and there's a method to go through. And so jumping ahead a little bit, we met for a year, kind of sponsored through the program, and now we just kept going, and we're on 2 years. Now, the Power of 8 is, Lynn will tell you, 8, there's nothing that significant about 8. It just sounded really good. Her husband came up with that as kind of a buzzword, Power of 8, and it sounds really good. So we've been meeting once a week for 2 years now. We have an intention almost every week. Sometimes we just talk, but most of the time we have an intention, and we send it out there. And there's a little methodology to it. One person kind of gets everybody in the right mood. Then you read the intention. Like last week, we had a really fun one. This woman, she wanted to win the radio contest to travel anywhere in the U.S. For the summertime, and so she wanted to visit all of us on this trip or get us all together. Unfortunately, God, that wasn't the best story, but she didn't win it. But still, the idea is we're keep trying, and you're not 100% successful, but we've had some interesting ones. So one for me, in fact, was my right knee had been really bothering me, and we put that intention out there. We did it twice, and I think it's really good. I think it was really helpful.
So is it like a prayer group?
Well, yeah, you could call it a prayer group. Some people have called it the wishing well group. It's a little bit derogatory, but the wishing well group. But it's really just getting to the place where you understand how powerful thoughts and words are. And so it's really kind of elevating that. It makes me think more as I go through my week. If I'm going to say something, like, hey, make it more like that Power of 8 group, where don't just, talk about things that, because especially in this political environment, there's not a lot of necessity to just talk about stuff unless you're going to do something about it, unless it's really valuable. So it's a good, like most things, if you do it once a week, it really kind of stays with you. So that's a powerful benefit.
Okay, so I took you off course a little bit. I want to come back to the autobiography of the yogi. What have you gotten out of that, either out of the whole book or the 50 pages you read last night?
The first 50 pages, I already said anything's possible. Anything is possible. I mean, these yogis, they levitate. They can be in two places at the same time. They're so calm. This is what's keeping in my memory right now. When he's meditating, half his eyes are kind of half closed because he's not that interested in the material world. And also he gives him more chance to focus on the spiritual world that he lives in. So if that doesn't get you thinking about everything, like it's a pretty good jolt. It's like, okay, they're totally at peace. And what's going on there? anything's possible.
So is that what you do? You read these books and then you say, how is it stimulates your contemplation about what's possible for you?
Robert, I never put it that way, but I'm glad you're listening. So it might be true. I really love that whole thing about anything's possible. That, it doesn't mean you can do it overnight. It doesn't mean you're gonna win the lottery. That kind of thing. It's like, think about what you're doing here and what you've read and being part of those Jodi things. What keeps coming through? Unity, unification. I think I told you that what I'm that definition of love the other day that I hadn't heard before. Anything that unifies.
I don't remember that. I mean, you might have. I might have been in that calm yogi state.
Oh,
and didn't hear it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You weren't interested. Your eyes were half closed. Yeah. So anything that unifies. It's so part of that too is all these readings. It's yeah.
Are you in love?
Well, are you talking about loving somebody or loving? Well,
I'm just saying, are the love that you've been talking about, the unity love, the God love, the self love, the 3D love, the 5D love, the 9D love, whatever, are you in love?
Okay, that's an easier question. So, biggest moment in my life, having my son, and it was amazing. And I really did, something moved my heart there. So I love my son. There's just no doubt about it. It's just like, that is incontrovertible, like, bam. So I'm there with that. As far as loving my life, I do feel that. I feel love for my life, that even, the good and the bad that I've been through in my life, I have love for getting to be here. So I do feel that.
Are you love?
Sometimes I can demonstrate love.
No, that's not the question.
That's not the question. Am I love?
No.
Well, I'm going to say,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to go easy. I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's a fair. One of the things that you alluded to early on was something that you and I talk about a lot. We talk about this stuff, and then we both will just every once in a while go, yeah, here's my opinion, but I don't know. I mean, it could be right, could be wrong. I don't know. And I don't think that, at least for me, I used to be that way. I used to think that I knew. And one of the things that I've learned is that the more I learn, the more I know I don't know. Especially this past weekend at this Sheriffin Blueprint, boy, there was just so much new information coming at me that I just sat there and go like, I have no idea of this stuff. Although they had a really cool process to actually take whatever you just learned and restructure your DNA to accept it, which I really found fascinating, because oftentimes, we go to these things or we read something and we want to retain it. We want it to change us. And part of their teachings was that every time you learn something, it's there in your whatever 3D, 5D, 9D world, and in sacred geometry, and you have an opportunity to restructure your sacred geometry to bring that information, those thoughts, those words, those feelings into your being. And I go, that's like really cool, because I had been trying to just remember stuff, but to restructure my sacred geometry, to restructure my DNA such that it's now part of me. Wow, that's kind of a cool thing. Now, I use this process, it's only been a few days, where everything I learn each day, I use the process to say, I want to restructure my brain to accept that and to change who I am as a result of that. So when I'm going to have this autobiography of the yogi book recommended by Pete Dolan, I'm going to read that, and each page I'm going to use my process and go, I want to take that in. Whatever is good and valuable and moves me forward in my evolution, in my awakening, in my soul journey.
When you're talking about restructuring your DNA to learn something faster, I have to go, oh, well, I gotta figure out this Yogananda first before I go do that. And then, what I thought about when you were saying that, because, we both coached, most of the time we had to, have individual conferences and to cater to how they could learn, because you would see the look on their face and they're not learning. And so then you'd tell them a different way. So you're saying, no, just change your DNA and then you can accept the message. So something like
Change your sacred geometry that is unique to you. But one of the things that, just as you were saying that, I remember when I was working at Exxon as a chemical engineer and for a time as safety director, one of the things that we found is that with our safety rules, and there's research on this, you have to present the same material 13 times on average to people for them to really get it, to them to remember it. And, as coaches or as teachers, we oftentimes think that you just say it one time and people get it, or as parent to our children, and you're like flabbergasted when people don't. Well, the research actually shows you got to do it 13 times. So when people ask me, why do I go to Tony Robbins or Joe Dispenza multiple times? It's because I really want to learn it. I need to hear things maybe 13 times in order for me to get it, until this weekend, where now I know a process to restructure my brain in order to remember things. So I'm really hopeful that that's going to work. It'll save me a lot of money.
Yeah, true. Is that the same as Joe Dispenza, when the neuroplasticity, and if you have a Kundalini type experience, that would change your brain chemistry?
I don't think that Joe says that, but I think that that's what it is, because one of our sections was around the Kundalini. But this is very intentional. You hear something and you say, oh, that is important information. I'm going to restructure my brain, restructure my sacred geometry, restructure my DNA such that I absorb that into my being for now and forever. Isn't that cool? I'm pretty excited about it.
That's fourth on my list after I get done with these other things I got to take care of.
Yeah, I know you got a lot of things going on. So Pete, what you're where you are. We're kind of reaching the end of our time here. What's next for you? What's next for Pete Dolan? Where's your life going to be taking you? Where's your intentional group? Your being? What's your dreams? You've got a few minutes here to kind of wrap things up on what's in the future for Pete Dolan that maybe inspire someone else.
Well, it's quite the challenge, Robert. So my whole life, it was the goal driven, I want to be, live life to the fullest. I want to surf. I want to ski. I want to run. I want to coach. I want to read. And now that, what did you say? We're in our the back nine or something? The last, what
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't mean it that way.
I didn't. No, I just said we're the last few minutes of our podcast. We got a long way to go.
I was already thinking, how many more years do I have?
I'm already, and one of the processes we learned was reverse aging. I'm doing that. So I'm getting younger.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. So it's just being, but with the spin on it is that I do want to know God. I really do. I want to know God better. I feel like I know him a little bit. And I know that sounds like, I don't want to, does that sound bragging? No, right. But I think everybody gets it. Like we already talked about that. Like when you see the Grand Canyon for the first time, there's something about it. When you see your child, born, like there's something about it. So there's something there. So I just want to know better. So I think through reading, through retreats, through, surfing, through, just living life, and being more in what these great teachers are trying to tell us, being in that stuff, which is really hard because you got to sit there and be frustrated with it. And like, I'm not moving forward, or like this intention group. God, how come that intention, we didn't get the result we wanted? It's just like, no, it's just keep going, just keep going. So that's really my thing is I just want to keep going. And I think, this science and spirituality, it really is coming together now, that people are kind of seeing that, what is consciousness, and that's what we're talking about. I mean, look at you're in Florida, I'm in San Diego, and we're talking on via Zoom or whatever platform we're on. And it's talking about really cool stuff. Got me excited for stuff. And so I think it's all heading that way. And there could be that real awakening going on, that people are all disappointed in the political climate right now, which obviously, yeah, all this polarization. And we're talking about unification. I'm talking about, one of the most moving things I've had is those retreats, the Joe Dispenza retreats, and how I felt unified with everybody. So what if we start turning it that way? What if your podcast and me reading my books and living my life a really good way just starts unifying people? So was that a fair answer, Robert?
That's a really good answer. But as you were talking, I thought of one more question to ask you. You came on my Croatia yacht cruise this summer. This was after years of asking you to come. You finally came. You came with your son. And I've just in the last few days have finalized our plans for our next trip, the rad venture to the Philippines. And I hope that you're going to be coming with us. But just for our audience that maybe doesn't know about this, tell us a little bit about your experience, what you learned, what you felt, what you experienced, and if you'd recommend that someone join us on our next rad adventure to the Philippines.
You should have asked that in the beginning. We would have filled the whole time up. So first, if you go, be ready to be moved, heart and soul and brain. So Robert's going to introduce you to a lot of different things. And what's great about it is you're in this amazing setting. Now, I've never been on a private yacht, so that was quite a thing. And, my intention group, we did have an intention because my son and I went through some rough times when he was a senior in high school, and they had an intention for us to be better. And we really grew on that trip. I saw him as a young man. He was 19 at the time. I saw him in just a different light. It was so fun. We were just sharing. I'll have to tell you the joke one day, but he made me laugh so hard. We were sitting at the table at one of those dinners, and you said something, and he said something under his breath to me. It just cracked. He goes, "Dad, that's the most I've ever made you laugh." That was on your cruise. So, and it's not just all about the learning. It was so beautiful. Croatia was like perfect weather. The water's perfect. The towns were beautiful, uncrowded. The people on the cruise, oh my God, when you're done, you feel like, I wish they lived in my town, because we'd be hanging out all the time. We'd be going to, Taco Tuesday or whatever all the time. So instead, we stay in touch, through WhatsApp and all that. But if you wanted something where you're not sure about going to a big Joe Dispenza thing, this would be the one, because you get a beautiful vacation out of it, and you move your soul down the road a little bit. So A+ there, Robert. Yes.
Thank you for that an in-podcast testimonial, Pete. And thank you for sharing a little bit about your life, a little bit about your dreams, a little bit about your journey. I look forward to hosting you here in Florida next week, and then some good times in Santa Barbara too once I get there. Thank you very much, Pete Dolan.
Thank you, Robert. That was fun.